and welcome to Sunday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now, today we're going to take a look at a puzzle that's been sent in to us by Freddie Hand, the brilliant young solver from the UK who did so well in the recent World Puzzle Championship. Freddie is about 17 years old, I think, and he's already, as well as being a good solver, a brilliant setter. He's had lots of puzzles published on gmpuzzles.com. And he's created this puzzle for us. Now, I think the reason he's chosen this puzzle is that, and it's a Japanese sums and products, by the way, is because it was his favourite puzzle from the World Puzzle Championship, and we covered that puzzle in a video a couple of weeks ago. So I'll put a card on the screen now if you want to refresh your memory about that one. Anyway, this one today is one of Freddie's own. So how do we do Japanese sums and products? Well, let's revisit the instructions. We need to place the digits from 1 to 7 in some of the cells so that no digit is repeated in any row or column. Numbers on the outside of the grid indicate the sum or product of adjacent digit groups in that row or column in order, and each sum is separated by at least one black cell. So probably the best way to understand that quickly is to have a look at this example. So if we look at the first row, you have a 2 clue and a 12 clue. So looking at the intended solution, we have a 2 followed by a black square, and then the 12 is a multiplication, so it's 3 times 4 times 1 would give 12. But we have to work out, we're not told that this is multiplication, we have to work it out. So you can see in row 2 of the grid, the clue is 15, and rather than that being 3 times 5 or 3 times 5 times 1, actually this is a summation of all the digits from 1 to 5. So the example's obviously not for the digits 1 to 7, only for the digits 1 to 5. So with that said, let's take a look at Freddie's puzzle now, which is here. Now, if you want to have a go, I do recommend you have a go. Freddie is a brilliant setter. Take a look at the link under the video, and that should take you to our webpage where you can try the puzzle first or afterwards, as you like. And with that, I am going to have a look at this. Now, I remember from doing this puzzle before that it's really important to try and get a handle on squares that can contain digits. So which squares are definitely not black squares? One thing I'm struck by as I'm looking at this, look how elegant this is. So we've got sort of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 just along the top here, and only 4 of the rows down the left hand side actually have any clues at all. So 14. Well, the minimum number of cells 14 would be 2. If it was 2 times 7, that would be the minimum number of cells. And if we had a 2 times 7 clue, then the other clue couldn't be a multiplication clue because none of the factors are then available. We've already used 2 and 7. So the other side of the clue will have to be a summation clue and would have to be 3 digits, because it would have to be something like 653. I mean, I guess it could be 6. It could be 6413, so it could be 4 digits. But it definitely must be 3 digits. So if that's the case, if this, starting on this side, we'd have 2 followed by a black square, followed by 3 more digits like that. And if we did that the other way, if this side was the 2, 7, that would look like that. Yeah, okay, so you can see in both of those iterations of how this row could look, this square and this square had definitely got to be numbers. So I'm going to use green to indicate a cell that must contain a digit. Now, what can we do with that? So that one, unfortunately, I think that could still be a digit, because if this was just a 4 on its own, which it could be, that would then be a black square, and then that could be a 1 and a 3 or something like that. So What am I missing already? 7. 7 could just be a single digit, so I can't possibly be this row that I'm missing. 9 must be 2 digits at least. It must be the 14 row. That's the only row that's seriously constricted, only row or column that's seriously constrained. Ah, of course, I see. Right. So the multiplication, if there is a multiplication here, 2 times 7, it can never be on the left-hand side of the grid. It can't be in any of those squares, because if it is, there will have to be a 7 in one of these highlighted squares, and there can't be, because we can't do a subtraction. It's Japanese sums or products, not Japanese subtraction and products and sums. So the 7 must be on the right hand side. It must be in one of those 3 squares. And I don't think it's possible. There must always be a 7 in this row. It's not possible to make 14 twice from 6, 5, 3 and then 4, and it must have, it's definitely got a 7. So there's definitely a 7 in one of these squares. Therefore, wherever that goes, and I guess it could be 7, 2, 1, there must be... now hang on, must it contain a 6, the summation? If we've got 7 and 2 in a multiplication, how do we get to 14? 5? We can't go 5, 4, 3 and 2. So we have to have a 6. And the 6 must, well, the furthest right the 6 could be would, or the furthest left the 6 could be would be here. It can't be in those 3 squares. So that square must be a 6. Oh, that's really... So that square must be black, because the 6 must be part of the summation. Those squares must all be green. These 2 squares must be green and must be 2 and 7. Wow, that is monstrous. I'm already looking forward to the comments on this, because it's quite easy to miss that, I think. Now, what can we do with that? 2, 7. Now this column looks 6. So this, the problem is this might not be 6 on its own. It could be 6 times 1. But look at this square. This square can never be in, because if this square is in, it must be a 6 on its own, and that's going to repeat the 6. So that square is not in. Still don't know if either of these 2 squares is in. Yeah, okay, he's got me again there. It's the same thing again. Look, these 7s. If there is a 7 clue on its own, so it's just a single 7, it can't be in those 3 squares. So however we make 7 in these 3 squares, and we must make 7 in those 3 squares somewhere, because we can't make 7 twice in these squares, this must be at least a 2-cell clue. So that square must be green. Now you can never have a 4 clue, which is 3 squares in a row, so that square must be black, and therefore that is a 4. Right. 4. So this down here must be a 2-cell clue. That must be 1 and 3, mustn't it? It can't be anything else. 1, 3. Those 3 squares must be black. That's green. Can't make 9 or 8 in one cell, so those 2 squares are black. That square could be a 3 on its own. 9 must be 2 cells. Each of these 9s must be 2 cells. So there's only one way that can go. And that means this row is like this. This square now can't be in, because if this square is in, the 6th clue is 3 cells long, and the most it could be would be 2. We still don't know, in fact, if it is 2. This could be in or not, this square. But this square here can't be a 6 on its own, because that 6 exists, so that must be in. You can't make 5 in three cells, so this square must be black as well. Yeah, okay. Now we've got 2 5 clues now. We've sort of identified where they start. Now, given that they can't be 3 cells, those 2 squares must be black. And now this clue is fixed. That must be a 3, and it must be green. Now this could be 1. Bother. But that square can't be in now, because it would have to be a 3 on its own. So this square must be in as well. Not that that particularly helps us. And no, this can't be 3 times 1, because 3 times 1 would remove the possibility of 2 plus 1 for the alternative. So the 2 3 clues must be a 3 on its own and a 2 plus a 1. So that square is on its own. These 2 squares are a 1 2 pair. This is it's so tight, this puzzle, isn't it? You have to have the right thought at the right moment. It's brilliant. Right, 2 7 here. So that square's a 1. Can't repeat the 2 in the row. That's a 2, that's a 3, that's a 1. So we've now got 10 here. So this must be a 4. This must be a 1. To make 5, obviously. Let's colour that in. This could be a 5 on its own. This 6 clue now cannot be 6 times 1, because that would require there to be a 1 there. So that's a 6 on its own. 7. 5. 9. Right, now, okay, I'm starting to learn, Freddie, how your mind works on this puzzle. Let's think about the options for making 9 work. So we've got 4 plus 5. We can never use multiplication to make 9, because it would require 3 times 3, which will repeat the 3. So 4 plus 5, that would work. 6 plus 3 does not work, because look, because of this 6, I would have to put the 6 here in a 5 column, and that immediately would break the 5 clues. So 6 and 3 doesn't work, and for the same reason 2 and 7 won't work, because I would have to put 7 in one of these squares, and that's going to break the column. So this is 4 and 5, and that's a 4. So actually that is 4 and 5. This can't be 5 times 1, so that's a 5 on its own. This must be 4 and 2. There's nothing else it can be. So that's green. This square must be black, and this is a 2. Now this is either 3 6 or 2 7. But look, if this is green, if these 3 squares are all green, I would have to have a black square either side, and there's not enough room for the second clue. And the same logic goes for these 9s. I can't make this square green. That would be fine for one of the 9s, but how would I make the second 9? There's not enough space. So both of those squares must be black. 8 must be at least 2 digits, so that square's green. And because we've got 2 clues in this column, these now connect to each other. Now, 8 in 3 cells must contain a 1, because it's either going to be 1 times 2 times 4, that would work, or it's a summation, 1 plus 2 plus 5, or 1 plus 3 plus 4. So everything there has a 1 in it. This can't be a 1, because it's part of a 9 clue. 9s. Ah, yeah, okay. These 9s must be at least 2 cells, so those are green. This must be green. Right, this square can't be a 7, because if it's a 7, that square would have to be a 1, and that's going to break that 1 and these ones down here. So this must be a 2. Therefore, that must be a 2. Therefore, that square is a black square. Still don't know if this 7 is a 2-cell clue or a 1-cell clue. This 9 clue here must now be 3, 6, because we know it's a summation. It can't be 4, 5, and it can't be 2, 7, because we could not put a 2 or a 7 in this clue. So this is 3, 6. Now you can see here this can't possibly be 6, because we know both of these cells are green. So that is 3, that's 6. This can't be 6 plus 2 plus 1. We already have a 2 in the column. So that's a 3. That's not in. This, oh, that could be a 1 if that's a 7, but this is certainly in this square. Now this 8 clue contains a 3, so it must be a summation. These two squares must be 1 and 4. Oh, look, this could be, if this is 4, this could be 2. If this is 1, this could be 7. Still don't know about that square. Still don't know about that square. This square. So this square. Well, the 8 cannot be a 3-digit clue, can it? Because if it's a 3-digit clue, it's either 2 times 4 times 1, which totally breaks because there's a 1 and a 4 down there, or it's a summation clue, and we know that a sum to 8 in 3 cells must contain a 1, and there's a 1 down there. So this square is black. Therefore, that square is a 7. Right. Ah, now that can't be 1, because there's a 1 here. So that is a 7 on its own. That square is green. That means that one at the bottom is a 2. That must be 5. This must be 4. This must be 1. That square must be black. This must be green. And we should... That can't be an interesting finish. That could have been a 4, but for that 4 there. So it must be a summation clue, and that square is a 6. What a beautiful, beautiful puzzle. That's really testing as well. Yeah, I thought that was extremely elegant, and as I say, very, very tightly constructed. Hats off, Freddie. Brilliant. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it. I hope you did. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribers. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Really appreciate it. And be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.